I watched her walk right past the security at my company's winter gala, no hesitation, like she owned the place. I had to stand outside, told to wait outside, like I was some delivery guy. It wasn't a big deal, but it stung. I stared through the ballroom glass while every other husband sat proudly next to his wife. Not me. Jenna was laughing, talking to Nate, the one she'd hired as her strategic coordinator. His hand rested casually on her back, like it belonged there. I'd seen the signs before, the way she'd go on about work at night, those boardroom updates at 2 a.m., while I stayed up fixing her spreadsheets. The same spreadsheets that saved her from missing a $2.6 million error. She didn't even say thanks, just took the flash drive and walked out the door that morning. Now, here she was, smiling and talking to Nate like I didn't even exist. 3 years ago, I was the one getting offers. Consulting firms, headhunters. After that talk at the regional logistics expo, I thought I was on my way. Jenna sat in the front row, beaming, proud of me. I could see it in her eyes. That was before everything flipped. Now, I lived in her shadow, quietly running her back-end ops, all while our 1,400 a month apartment outside Hartford felt smaller every day. She was a star, climbing the ladder at ClearPath Solutions. And I was the guy folding laundry and checking the heat cycles on her supply chain prototypes. How the hell did I go from the guy who was up there with her to the guy who made sure the damn Wi-Fi was working when she had another late-night meeting? Ellie, our daughter, begged for a STEM camp for months. She had a passion for coding, and I knew it was something she'd thrive in. But when I brought it up, Jenna just brushed it off, said we couldn't afford it. The tone she used, like it wasn't even worth considering. So I let it go, until I found the hotel receipt. Jenna had spent double the cost of the camp on a night out with Nate. She called it networking. Same night she forgot Ellie's 8th birthday. I didn't even raise it with her. I just baked the cake myself. She didn't even say sorry. Didn't even notice I'd stayed up till midnight making the frosting from scratch. Ellie thought it was the best cake ever. Me? I just swallowed the anger down and told myself it didn't matter. But it did. Nate had a Rolex now. I found the invoice in the office printer tray. At first, I thought it was just something I missed. Maybe it was for a gift or something. But when I checked the date, I realized the thing was brand new. Jenna didn't wear watches. Never did. But Nate? He wore it like a crown, always checking it during meetings with her. I pretended not to see it for a while. Thought maybe it was my insecurity, my mind making something out of nothing. But then my sister saw Jenna at a hotel restaurant when she said she was on a flight to San Diego. She told me, "I didn't know you were doing a business trip with your wife." She didn't know. I just sat there, staring at her. How many times had I heard her say she was working late or flying out for business, all while Nate was there? I stopped pretending I didn't know. Nate showed up at our apartment at 6:45 a.m. in a trench coat and a smug grin. He said he needed Jenna's sign-off on client strategy slides. He didn't even look at me when I opened the door, just pushed past me like he owned the place. I was still in my old Boston College hoodie with a bleach stain on the sleeve. Nate's shirt was crisp, tailored. Of course it was. He walked in without waiting for an invitation, like he'd done it 100 times. The arrogance in his steps, it was too much. He didn't say hello or good morning, just dropped the stack of papers on the kitchen counter and started scrolling through his phone, acting like I wasn't even there. Jenna deserves someone who understands where she's going, he said, eyes still glued to his screen. Then he looked around, wrinkling his nose as if our place was something to be embarrassed about. I don't think this environment helps her get there. I didn't say anything, just stood there, feeling every inch of that judgment. This apartment had been home for years, but apparently it wasn't good enough anymore. I wasn't good enough. Later that day, Ellie asked why her mom never showed up to her math club events. "Everyone else has both parents," she said, twisting her hands in her lap. She was 8, but that didn't stop the weight of her words from hitting me like a brick. It wasn't the first time. I could count on one hand the number of times Jenna had made it to one of Ellie's things. Dance recitals, school plays, parent-teacher conferences. But I kept convincing myself it didn't matter, that work was hard, that she was doing it all for us. But that day, hearing Ellie's words, I couldn't lie anymore. It did matter. It mattered to Ellie, and to me. Then, that afternoon, the school called. They said Jenna had changed the emergency contact to Nate, not me. I was Ellie's father, her primary contact. Not anymore. I don't know why that one hit so hard. Maybe because it was so final. Like Jenna had made a choice, and I wasn't it. I stood there in the hallway, phone still pressed to my ear, and felt it, the weight of it all. I wasn't just being replaced, I was being erased. When Jenna went to Chicago for that conference, I saw my chance. I set up a local backup of her work computer while she was out. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state. I wasn't breaking any laws, I knew that much. But it felt wrong, like I was crossing some invisible line I couldn't erase. I started documenting everything, files, timestamps, my own edits to her predictive models, the ones she presented as her own. I'd been tweaking the models for months, cleaning up errors she'd missed, refining the code. Every time she showed me what she was going to present to her boss, she acted like it was all hers. Like the long nights, the late calls, the fixes I'd made, none of it mattered. She never noticed me quietly renaming versions of her code files with encryption markers. Files I had made sure were all traceable back to me. Clean, undeniable proof. Each edit I made, each change in the models, it was mine. And when the time came, no one would be able to deny it. I found the chat logs between her and Nate. They talked about next steps once the transition is clean. I was the transition. That's what they called me. The necessary casualty to make room for whatever they were planning. I didn't confront her. I didn't say a word. I wasn't going to beg for her to see me, not after everything. I just collected and waited. One night, I found a message from her, sent to Nate. She said I'd understand when it was over, that I wasn't built for the kind of world she was in. That one stung. It hit harder than any of the other shit I'd heard from her, because I wasn't stupid. I knew exactly what she meant. She was making her world without me, and I wasn't welcome anymore. I didn't argue, I didn't storm off. I just sat there, staring at that message, and I kept on collecting. Because I knew, one day, all of this would come back. I just had to wait. Jenna's company announced the Winter Gala a few weeks later. Only her name was on the invite. No +1, no spouse field, nothing. It wasn't subtle. She was making a point. She'd always insisted work was separate from personal life. But this felt like an official marker of where I stood. I called the receptionist just to confirm. When she answered, there was a hesitation in her voice, like she knew I wasn't supposed to be asking. Mrs. Caldwell specifically asked to keep it professional this year, she said. Caldwell? I repeated, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. That was Jenna's maiden name. She was already using it again at work. I could hear it in the silence that followed. She wasn't just putting her career first. She was separating from me. It was like the world had shifted and I hadn't even been told. I put the invite back where she'd see it, right on the kitchen counter where she'd left it. She didn't ask me why I didn't plan on going. She didn't care. That night, she left for the gala in one of those fancy black dresses she always wore, the ones she claimed she didn't have time to pick out, but somehow always looked perfect in. I stayed behind, didn't make a scene, didn't beg her to take me. I'd learned a long time ago that those things didn't work, but I wasn't just sitting at home feeling sorry for myself. No, I suited up in the only blazer I had left from my old job. The one I used to wear when I was the guy giving talks at conferences, the guy who got the job offers. I shoved the folder I'd been putting together into my bag. Proof, screenshots, code, presentation versions. All of it. Her promotions, they were built on my work. Her accolades, stolen from hours I'd spent fixing her mistakes. Every single version of those models, I was behind them. I walked outside, feeling the cold bite against my skin. The air was sharp, cutting through the thin fabric of my blazer. I didn't care. The city lights shimmered around me as I waded across the street from the venue, watching her inside with her colleagues, laughing and smiling like everything was perfect. I stood there, heart pounding in my chest, and waited for the moment. When she took the stage to accept her promotion, I opened my laptop and hit send. I sent it all. The email to the CEO, every piece of work she had taken credit for, laid out with timestamps, all the edits, the code, mine. Digitally signed, documented. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I sat there, watching the screen of my phone, waiting for the email to land in the hands of Rob McMillan, the CEO. I sent it with the title, Re-Intellectual Property Theft at ClearPath Solutions. It felt clean, like a weight lifted from my chest. No turning back now. I didn't need to be there to know what was happening inside that ballroom. I could picture the moment Rob would open the email. I watched his face shift as he glanced at his phone. It was subtle at first, a frown, then a quick look over at his legal counsel. He leaned in and said something to the woman beside him. I knew it was happening. I could feel the shift, even from across the street. I kept my eyes on the venue, the glitter of the lights reflecting off the glass doors. Jenna was still up there, oblivious, rattling off the speech she had practiced for weeks. She was thanking Nate for his support and long nights in the office. The crowd chuckled, clapping as she smiled, her hands clasped in front of her. Her eyes shone with that same fake enthusiasm, the one she'd always used in front of a crowd, the one that never reached her eyes when she was with me. I watched it all. The CEO stood up, tapping her arm gently. He leaned in and whispered something to her, his face tight. She froze for a moment. Then her smile started to fade, just the smallest twitch at the corners of her mouth. For a second, it felt like time slowed down. Her hands, which had been confidently holding the microphone, faltered just a little, and then the room fell silent. It didn't take long, 12 minutes to be exact. That's how long it took for Nate to be escorted out of the building. His face, usually so cocky and sure, was a mix of confusion and disbelief as security guided him away. Jenna was next. She stood there, staring at Rob as he spoke to her, her cheeks burning red. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the anger and shame washing over her face. The MC stood there awkwardly, fumbling with his notes, trying to fill the silence. But it didn't matter. It wasn't about the words anymore. The truth had come out. And Jenna, the woman who'd built her success on my back, was left standing in the middle of the ballroom, exposed and humiliated. I didn't wait around to watch the fallout. I knew what was coming. I didn't need to hear it. The only thing I felt was a quiet satisfaction, like I'd just undone everything she'd taken from me. No more pretending, no more being invisible. She wasn't the only one who deserved to be seen, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had my name back. That night, Jenna came home silent. She walked through the door, her heels clicking on the tile, her eyes glazed over like she'd just shut off. She didn't even look at me. "I need space," she said, her voice flat. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her, at the woman I'd spent years building a life with, and realized I didn't even know who she was anymore. When she turned toward the kitchen, I stood up. "I'll call a lawyer first thing in the morning," I told her, my voice steady but cold. She froze. Her shoulders tensed like she'd been expecting it, but didn't want to hear it. "Ken, please," she pleaded, turning to face me. "Don't do this. You're going to destroy my brand." I let that sink in. Destroy her brand. That's what it came down to. It wasn't about our family or Ellie or what had just happened. It was about her name, her image. I shook my head. "You should have thought about that before you turned me into your shadow." She didn't respond. She just stood there, eyes down, lip trembling. But she didn't fight back. Not this time. I could tell she knew it was over. The choice she'd made to build everything on my back, to use me, it had caught up to her. I didn't care about the mess it would cause for her. I didn't care about the brand she thought she'd built. My friend Mason, a family attorney, said I had enough to take majority custody of Ellie. He said I didn't even have to try hard to win. Jenna resisted at first, but once the evidence and legal advice became clear, she stopped fighting and signed the papers quietly. She moved out 2 weeks later, packing her things into a suitcase, leaving the apartment we'd shared. It was just like she always did, detaching, moving on to the next thing. This time, the next thing was Nate. She moved in with him, just like that, without a second glance back. But it didn't end with her. Her company fired them both for ethics violations. The press released a statement about corporate misconduct, but no details. It was all business speak. Nothing about intellectual property theft, nothing about me. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't need to rub salt in the wound. Her reputation was already burning on its own. Ellie saw me every day. I took her to school, made her dinner, helped her with homework. I didn't let her feel the weight of the change, even when it stung. Jenna had weekend visits, a couple of hours here and there, but it wasn't the same. Ellie had stopped asking why her mom wasn't around more. I could see it in her eyes. She'd adjusted, just like I had. She didn't need her mom to be perfect. She needed me to be there, and I was. Jenna wasn't. And that was something I couldn't fix for her. A firm called Resolute Tech reached out a couple months after everything fell apart. They'd seen the portfolio of code samples I shared after leaving ClearPath. They said it had genius-level structuring, and asked who wrote it. I didn't hesitate. I told them. I sent them everything. Proof, timestamps, versions, all of it. I wasn't hiding anymore. A week later, I got the offer. Systems architect, $210K a year, full benefits. They wanted me to start in a month. I couldn't believe it at first. It wasn't just the money, it was the recognition. The first time anyone ever called my name in a boardroom, I signed the contract without a second thought. That was my moment, the one where I wasn't just the guy in the background. I was the guy driving the project, the one whose name would be on the email threads, on the proposals. For the first time in a long time, I could feel something like pride stirring in my chest. I moved Ellie and me into an apartment downtown. The place was clean, no clutter, no echoes of old memories. It was quiet, the kind of quiet I hadn't had in a long time. No smell of Nate's cologne lingering in the hallway, no reminders of the life that had slipped through my fingers. Ellie had her own room. She got a new desk with a real chair, one that wasn't just a hand-me-down. I set up her space with a whiteboard for her to work on her school projects. I taught her Python every Saturday morning, showing her how to build basic programs. She picked it up faster than I thought, watching her solve problems on the screen, her eyes lighting up when she figured something out, made everything feel real, made everything feel right again. I didn't post anything on social media, didn't tweet, didn't brag about my new job or the raise. I had seen enough of that. This wasn't about showing off. It was about rebuilding, about creating something solid again, even if no one else saw it. Ellie didn't ask about Jenna as much anymore. Maybe she was too young to fully understand, or maybe she just didn't care. But it didn't matter. I was here. I was the one who showed up every day. And that was enough. 6 months later, my logistics model was presented at a tech symposium in Chicago. Not by Jenna, not by anyone else. Just me. I saw the announcement pop up in my inbox as the press release went live. It was exactly what I'd been waiting for. Ken Voss quietly engineered one of the most efficient product routing systems in the past decade. The words felt like a fist in my chest. But in a good way. They were mine. Finally, the world could see it, even if it was quiet. No grand reveal, no flashy press tour, just a few lines in an article that spoke volumes to me. And for once, the credit wasn't stolen. For once, it was all mine. I'd thought about it for months. The company, Jenna, Nate, the whole mess. And now, here I was, on my terms. My phone rang the next morning. It was Rob McMillan, the same CEO who'd gotten my email that night. The same guy who'd probably read the email over and over, trying to figure out what had happened behind closed doors at ClearPath. "Ken," he said, sounding like he was trying to make up for something. "We missed out. We really did. If you ever want to consult for us, name your rate." I could almost hear him smiling on the other end of the line, probably imagining himself offering me a cushy deal to get me back. The company had done just fine without me. They probably needed me now, but it wasn't the same anymore. I didn't need them. I'd rebuilt everything from scratch. "I'll think about it," I said, keeping my tone polite. It wasn't a lie. I did think about it, for about 5 seconds. But I knew right then I wasn't going back. No amount of money, no deal could make me forget how they'd treated me, how they'd turned me into a ghost just to make themselves look good. I hung up, the phone feeling strangely heavy in my hand. I didn't need to take Rob's call, didn't need to keep proving anything to anyone anymore. I had my name now. That was enough. I showed up to Ellie's robotics competition wearing a Resolute Tech hoodie. It was simple, no fanfare. She was sitting on the bleachers, her face lit up by the glow of her tablet. When she saw me, she jumped up and waved. She was wearing her future coder shirt, her eyes wide with excitement. Ellie had worked her ass off for this. I knew it. She didn't just want to win. She wanted to prove something. And she did. When they announced the winners, Ellie ran up to the stage, her little legs moving faster than they probably should. She came back to me with her ribbon, holding it high. "I did it, Dad," she said, practically glowing. "Nobody helped me, just like you." I choked up a little, not from sadness, from pride, from being seen. Ellie wasn't just learning to code, she was learning to stand on her own 2 feet, and she had me to thank for it. Not because I had done everything for her, but because I showed her how to keep going, no matter what. Later that night, I got an email from Jenna. The subject line said, "I'm sorry." I read it once, then deleted it. I didn't reply. I just archived it and went on with my night. Jenna's in Oregon now, last I heard. Nate's out of the picture. Her LinkedIn profile's gone quiet. I guess she's still trying to figure out where she fits in now that she's lost everything she thought she could control. But I'm not interested in any of that. A few weeks ago, Ellie's teacher called me. She said, "Your daughter talks about you like you're her hero." I had to laugh. "I'm just the guy who kept the lights on while the real work got stolen," I told her. But it felt good hearing it out loud. Because now, I'm doing the work. I'm getting the credit. And that's enough.